It's time to talk movies, and tonight we're talking Oscar nomination predictions. I wonder what the future holds tonight on Real to Real Talk. Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of Real to Real Talk. I am Sergio Barrera, and it's time once again to talk all things movies and TV and whatnot. Joining me, as always, is the other Real to Real Talker, Paul Britton. And once again, joining us is our dear friend and friend of the show, Kristen Smith. Guys, I'm excited. We're talking Oscars tonight.
Yeah. I mean, the nominations come out on Tuesday.
Yes.
BAFTAs were just announced today.
Today, yeah.
I have so much to say.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to this conversation because, again, I mean, this is one of my favorite times of the year. Right before we went on air, Paul, Kristen, and I were talking a conversation you and I have had a couple times about how having a different lens in terms of how we watch films and what we like about them is really a lot of fun to have the podcast based on. And I find that this conversation I'm excited about because as I was trying to decide, okay, if I had to nominate the 10, what would they be? I have a feeling that we're going to land sort of in different places because I have some I wish nominations that I'm going to throw in. So,
okay. See, I didn't realize that was the exercise, but
well, no, I mean,
trust me, I tried to predict too, Paul. You're not the only one.
Okay.
I mean, I have predictions that I think are based on things that are rooted in, like we've all talked about, you know, the SAG nominations, BAFTA, and Producers Guild, Directors Guild. I think there are some films that we'll all agree are shoo-ins for one of the top 10 slots. Right. But then I did a lot of research and reading that really, got me thinking about like, man, what if? So as we get started, I do want to give you guys the opportunity to comment on the other award shows, I guess, and your thoughts on nominations. The SAG Awards have been nominations have come out, BAFTA earlier today. As we get into now having almost a full picture of what the nomination picture will look like. Talk a little bit, Kristen, we'll start with you on your thoughts on what do you see as a trend, or just what are your thoughts in terms of who's getting nominated as part of these other broadcasts?
So, interesting with Oscar lately is that historically, Oscars used to be, they tended to be like the, what do you call it? The average age used to be much, much older. Like people in their like 50s to much older. A lot of them were male. A lot of them were Caucasian. So it hasn't been until kind of starting around 2014 that they started making a lot bigger strides to like get more younger people, get more people of color, get more international people. And so I'm starting to keep those things in mind because the trends lately has been you start seeing a lot more diverse, interesting nominees. And I bring that up because I learned the fact today that for this Oscar nominations, which they ended yesterday, I think that's when the balloting ended. This was the largest turnout in Oscar nomination history, like for the amount of like over 9,000 voters over the course, like across 82 countries voted this year. And taking that into account and trends we've been seeing lately, I predict this Oscar nominations are going to be fucking chaos. Kind of like the BAFTA nominations today, which blew everything up.
Yeah. The dogs agree. So
sorry.
No, that's okay. So, Paul, what about you? As you look over the landscape, what are your thoughts as we head towards the announcements here very soon?
Yeah, to carry over Kristen's point, regarding sort of the trends in at the Academy of Motion Picture Sciences, the way they solved their Oscars so white problem and Oscars so old problem was by just offering membership to everybody, which is, by the way, a really good way to solve the problem. Like, offering token memberships and saying, look at, we're now just, we're now, breaking it out and reserving these spots for these people. It's like, that's not how you do it. The way you do it is you just open it up and you just like, look, we're going to be more inclusive. We're going to, make sure that everybody has a voice and everybody has an opportunity. And so, what you end up with is movies like Parasite winning 2 years ago, and so that opens the door for the chaos that Kristen is mentioning. But I think the nominating process is a little less chaotic, but can portend a chaotic actual award ceremony, which honestly, the only reason why we had a chaotic award ceremony last year is because they decided to save the best actor for the last award because they figured it would be Chadwick Boseman, and it wasn't. And that's the only reason why the Oscars last year were so chaotic.
But the better person won.
Okay, that is beside the point. Like,
I know it's beside the point, but the good news is that it at least helped all of us realize that they don't know who the winners are.
Right.
If they were to make that bad of a calculated decision.
And it was 100% a calculated decision. They bought into the betting public and said, well, the betting public must be right, and they were not. And so my point being, the chaos isn't necessarily in the nominating process, I don't think, as much as in the actual award winning process, which is exciting and can be fun. I mean, even Nomadland winning last year, a small, tiny film, directed by an Asian, this Asian woman, and it's just great. It's great, and and I know Kristen's hoping for 3 in a row for Asia. So with Drive My Car, but so. We know you played your hand pretty well during our Drive My Car review. So
I actually switched it for a while afterward.
Oh wow, really?
There was a lot of back and like.
Okay.
If we ever get into some categories like Best Actress or Director, I switched a lot. I switched one right as we were talking. I switched one.
Okay.
Well, that's the beauty of it, is we have the opportunity to do that. If we're talking just best films, which is sort of going to be the basis of this conversation, looking at SAG nominations for cast in a motion picture, you're looking at Don't Look Up, House of Gucci, Belfast, King Richard, and Coda. The BAFTA nominations that came out earlier today, again, just looking at
Best Picture or Best Film,
I had them right here. Of course,
it's Belfast, Don't Look Up, Dune, Licorice Pizza, and Power of the Dog. But I feel obliged to mention that it's generally accepted that the Producers Guild Best Film nominations are usually the closest to the Academy. They usually differ like by 1 or 2. This is going to be a different year because this is the first year where the Academy is like, we're going to have 10 nominees. And the Producers Guild is always, we're going to have 10 nominees. And usually what you find between Producers Guild to Best Picture is that like Producers Guild will have 10 films, and then of those 10, 7 or 8 will be nominated for Best Picture, and 1 will be different. Whereas this year, because it's going to be 10, I think you're going to find that it's more than just one being different, but I think you can pretty much guarantee that 6 to 7 of the films on the Producers Guild list are definitely in, and you just need to figure it out. And just for, completeness sake, the Producers Guild list for best film, Don't Look Up, Dune, Being the Ricardos, Tick, Tick, Boom, Belfast, Licorice Pizza, Power of the Dog, West Side Story, King Richard, and Coda.
So, and so with that in mind, again, as we look at some of these other groups' nominees as sort of markers or not markers toward what we're all talking about tonight, which is, what films do we think will be nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards this year? I obviously there are some consistent films that come up and come up and come up. Mm-hmm. If I may take just a quick rabbit trail note, because I know one of you two can answer this question. What in the BAFTAs, and I'm being totally sincere with this question, they have Best Film, but then they have Best British Film. Right. What is the qualifier for Best British Film? Just because I just don't know 100% what that is.
It's being directed by a British director.
Okay. I thought it might be that simple.
Like, for example, that's why last year they had, which one is it? Promising Young Woman, even though it's set in America, it's set in the US because it's directed by Emerald Fennell. That's how it got nominated for Best British Film and also won last year.
Yeah.
So. Gotcha. That helps. Thank you. Go ahead.
This year, following that, you have Passing this year as takes place in New York, directed by,
Rebecca Hall.
Right.
All right. So, so as we begin our list, maybe we'll start with movies that perhaps we'll all agree will be there.
Sure.
I think The Power of the Dog, which I saw yesterday. Mm-hmm. I finally made time. Is a shoo-in.
Yeah.
To be in the top 10. And would you agree possibly a leading contender in the field?
Yeah. For sure. For sure.
Yeah. So Power of the Dog, for me, it was just beyond. I mean, I wish I would have been part of that conversation, Paul, that you actually, I think, had by yourself when you reviewed it.
I made some really good points, and I agreed with myself a lot.
I'm sure you did. So Power of the Dog, for sure. Belfast.
Yes.
Is in. Yeah. What other movies do you guys think are shoo-ins? Let's see if we can come up with 5 that we know. Okay, these 5 will definitely be there.
I think it's 7, honestly, for me.
Okay.
But, I mean, I'll throw out the next one. Licorice Pizza. It's getting a nomination.
Okay.
Yeah. Dune.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you guys would think that because
for sure.
it needs to. I believe it should be.
It's getting nominated everywhere.
Yeah, it really is.
So
yeah, so I am glad to see it there.
Yeah.
So
I think what also helps it is that everyone who votes, they vote in their specific field. Like the sound people vote for sounds, but everyone votes for Best Picture.
Right.
And Dune is going to get pretty much every possible tech category it can.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
In BAFTA today, it got 11, and it got 11 without a Best Director nomination, which is crazy.
Which is crazy because it's so well directed. However, Drive My Car is the one that took it. Because Drive My Car was nominated for Best Director, but not Best Picture.
That director lineup is amazing. I love that director lineup, but
yes,
that was really an interesting choice.
Yeah, I'm going to have a lot to say if Dune doesn't win for costume design. I mean, come on.
Had two movies that I honestly hadn't even heard of on the Best Director list.
I assume one's After Love.
Yes.
And the other one's Happening?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you familiar with those at all?
I'm familiar with Happening because Happening won the Golden Lion at the Venice Film Festival. Okay. It was one of 3 movies, along with Titan and Petite Maman, that were vying for France's submission for the Oscars.
Okay.
And that's Titan won. And of course, we saw what happened because it was left off the international shortlist.
Right. So, I mean, I'm unfamiliar with these films, and I'm just going to say they have no chance of being nominated in the Academy. Like, just no chance. For international, perhaps, but the BAFTAs are notorious for just being like, hey, we're going to just throw in this random stuff, partially because the BAFTAs require that the nominations be split by gender, which is great, by the way. Talk about making sure that there's inclusion. Their nominations for director right off the bat is, we start with a list of 10 movies, 5 of them are men, 5 of them are women, and we whittle it down, and half need to be men, half need to be women. And that's great. That's definitely inclusion, but the Academy just doesn't have that requirement. So I don't see how they could, get the head of steam enough to sneak in,
It'll be interesting to see.
We have 4.
Can either one of you explain to me how West Side Story makes the list?
You mean I'm more interested in how it doesn't make the list. It's
really?
it's Spielberg. People love it. It won. It's already won a Best Picture. There is no way it doesn't. Like, that was going to be my next one. That one's coming through.
But go ahead, Kristen.
Nope, same. Like, it definitely, this morning, because BAFTA, West Side Story, I don't think is as strong as a lot of people thought it would be. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of craft, like the American Cinema Editors and the American Society of Cinematographers. Like, those groups snubbed West Side Story, and West Side Story really underperformed today at BAFTAs. And for categories that aren't juried. So, like, not getting editing and not getting, a bunch of other places. And so when we get to director, there is a case for Spielberg missing even though he got Directors Guild. So I think kind of what Paul is saying, like, because this is a movie that is remade, that, like, people might not be as strong as we originally thought it was going to be.
Yeah. I do think that the director category this year is super, super deep, to the point that I don't think that Spielberg gets nominated. And because, again, let's remember, Best Picture's getting 10 nominations. Best Director's still just getting 5. So, it's going to get the like, yay, Spielberg, good job, here's your nomination. And a couple of the actors might get Best Supporting, but that's going to be it. Like, it's not going to get, it might get costume, might get art direction. There are a couple other places where it might sneak in, but when you're talking about a list of 10, it is, people love them some Spielberg, and it is definitely getting a nomination.
Yeah. I think another lock we would all agree is Don't Look Up.
Yeah.
That will definitely be in the mix of the top 10.
Yep.
That for me is sort of my dark horse hope.
No, it's gonna happen. Like,
no, I mean that it would win. Like, I want it to win.
Sure.
But given the field, I don't think it's gonna happen.
Now, Don't Look Up. The thing it has going for it is stuff. It is like, what was the one about the Boston police scandal? Whoops.
Spotlight.
Spotlight. Thank you. Like, it has that sort of, like, it's relevant. It's it has that's it, and it also McKay gets a lot of support, so it has a chance. I think it has, like, a better chance than, like, West Side Story to actually win, but there are detractors, and it will be tough.
So, Christian, with that, what else do you think will make it outside of the ones that we've talked about so far?
The most interesting one is Coda, which I'm a giant fan of Coda. And somehow it's still staying in the conversation.
Yeah.
Like even though it's only showing on Apple TV, like it keeps getting, it got ensemble nomination at SAG. Troy Kotzer is like assured. See, even he likes it. Troy Kotzer is like assured a nomination, as well as probably for adapted screenplay. So like that one's the most surprising one that like sort of became a lock out of like pure sincerity.
I think that's a tough one to put in a lock. Like I have one more. I personally would say King Richard is the last lock, and then we're talking about like maybes. And King Richard is just, you know, it's a very solid film in a genre that the Academy loves, you know, and that's really what it boils down to, is that it's by far the best biopic of the year, and the best biopic of the year is probably getting nominated. You know, it's been nominated all over the place, you know, Directors Guild and so on. And I don't see how it gets left off, you know, especially since, you know, Will Smith is going to get nominated. You know that there's a pair of potential Best Supporting Actresses nominations out there for it as well. So I think King Richard is a much higher lock than Coda, but I think Coda is definitely like so once we get past the top 7, like Coda is my, you know, number 1, 2, or 3 on my probably list. But I you know, if I feel like King Richard is probably like 95 to 99%, I would put Coda at maybe like 70 to 80%. That's my feeling.
Is there one of the things that I know I've noticed as I look across, you know, the varying awards and such recognitions and lists and so forth, is, you know, we're picking from so many more movies this year, it seems. And so, you know, as I look at, you know, the list that I've sort of been researching and seeing what the consistencies are, I realize how many movies I've missed this year. Coda is one that I, until about a week ago, really hadn't even looked up. And I'm, you know, I know I've got to see it prior. Other films like that get mentioned here and there, and I think these are probably less likely, but Being the Ricardos and Nightmare Alley keep coming up in conversations for potentials, right? There's no one saying it's a guarantee, but I just feel like we've had usually I feel like year to year, the locks are a lot easier to spot sort of for the whole list. Whereas with 10 nominees, you get this sort of amalgam of films that may or may not make it in. So I don't know. I guess all I'm saying is the thing that I've learned most about my movie watching over the past year is, for a lot of the movies that I did get to see, I'm not hearing them in the conversation for, you know, Oscar nominations for Best Picture. I think of movies like The Lost Daughter that I think, you know, there should be at least a nomination for Olivia Colman. I'm amazed I haven't seen more on The Tragedy of Macbeth, to be honest. You know, maybe it's my recency with it, but there's just films that I know I did see that I'm not seeing in this conversation about, you know, being nominated as consistently across the board. And I'm like, maybe I just didn't get around to watching all the right films. I don't know. So, because I would even say I was surprised House of Gucci until the movies I've seen since then. I thought, okay, yeah, they are stronger than House of Gucci was. But you know, maybe I think when we see I get for myself as a fan of film, when we see the full picture of who gets nominated for acting and, you know, screenplay and so forth, I'll probably feel better about some of the films that I know I loved over the past year. I think we've made it to 8 so far that we agree on. What else would we add to the list, guys? And again, just, you know, who do you want to see there? Who do you think should be there? You know, what are your thoughts, Kristen?
I can give you like my last 2.
Okay.
One is Tick Tick Boom, which was nominated by the PGA, the Producers Guild. And while we were talking, I took off Nightmare Alley and added Drive My Car.
Okay.
Because in terms, like, in order to get these kinds of nominations, you need passion. And like the people who like Drive My Car, they really, really like it. And so, you know, by me saying that there's so many voters from all these different countries, I think it's more possible now than maybe I thought like 2 weeks ago that like a 3-hour Japanese film that's extremely highly regarded could get that Best Picture nomination. So, but I think it's kind of like Amour was back in 2013 when it surprised both picture and director. I think it's entirely possible.
Yeah, I Drive My Car is the top of my gosh, I hope it gets it list. You know, so if you look at our top, the 8 that we've mentioned, they are all from the Producers Guild Award, and so that means the last 2 that we didn't mention were Tick Tick Boom, which Kristen just mentioned, and Being the Ricardos, and I just don't see it. You know, the Best Picture in for the Academy going 9 of 10. I just don't see it. And I hope that Being the Ricardos is the one that gets left out. I really hope so, because it just isn't deserving at all. I don't want anyone, 20 years from now saying, oh, I want to go and look and watch all of the awards that have been nominated in the past 20 years and, starting with 2022 and going down the list and watching Being the Ricardos. I just don't want that to happen, because it's not as worthy as about a dozen other movies I could mention.
I turned it off after 15 minutes. I just couldn't stand it.
And you missed the most egregious part then. I mean, like the ending is just like, are you kidding me? But anyway, neither here nor there. For me, if we're gonna round out the top 10, I'm going with Drive My Car, just because of the feat that it made. We mentioned it 2 weeks ago, where it was on the list of these 3 really important film critic things, and I agree that it's going to get nominated because of the diversity of the base right now, and how that's going to play out. For me, I feel like the 10th one is going to be one that's just like, whoa, that's awesome! I can't believe it, and I'm so surprised. Is that like No Way Home? Probably not. Is that like
No Time to Die?
What's that? No
Time to
possibly. Or could it maybe be the one we're going to be discussing in just a little bit? I hope so, because I love it so much.
I would cry if that happened.
Yeah, the worst person in the world is. I mean, man, yeah, that would be awesome. I do think Macbeth has a chance, though, even though I don't think it has a chance to win. I think that there's enough people that love the Coens. Although, for some reason, the buzz around Macbeth is that it's beautiful, and Denzel's fantastic, but people genuinely, for some reason, are not like happy with Frances McDormand's performance. Oh yeah, absolutely. Go read the reviews. That's kind of like the general buzz is like Frances McDormand.
Not nominating her makes sense.
Yeah,
like she won last year. Yeah. Great performance.
Yeah,
right.
And it's a great performance.
I'm not the one saying it. I'm just saying what. But the problem is that she's one of the producers, and so the fact that her performance is cited as one of the things that people aren't all that thrilled about, and she's also one of the producers. So getting the Best Picture nomination, it becomes like, how does it get in? I would say for that 10th spot, it's a 3-way race, but unfortunately between Being the Ricardos. I'm saying I can't get King Lear out of my head. Macbeth, The Tragedy of Macbeth, and honestly, I think the worst person in the world. the movie that you can most compare it to recently was Promising Young Woman, and I think that it had a lot of that energy in it. It's just have enough people seen it. Honestly, that's really what it boils down to, because I think Worst Person in the World was probably about 10 times better than Promising Young Woman, and I really like Promising Young Woman. I didn't care for the ending of it, but as a film, like up until the last 20 minutes, I was really into it. Whereas Worst Person in the World, I was loving every single minute all the way through the end, and then the epilogue was like, oh, mind blown, forget it. This is amazing. So, and I'm skipping ahead, and I apologize.
What spoilers for our review of the worst person of the world?
That's all right. We'll be there very soon.
Worst podcast in the world.
Oh man. Well, again, we'll know for sure. The nominations will be announced. Is it Tuesday morning?
It's either Tuesday or Wednesday. I don't know.
Yeah, Tuesday morning. And again, it's always my favorite time of the year when we finally get the nominations and we really start to see what's going to be in the running for all of the awards. There's so many things that I'm looking forward to talking about on this show as we continue over the next few weeks, because I think there's more discussions to be had around some of the specific awards themselves. So I'm just going to put that out there.
I have to interrupt,
so that we can maybe do that.
I have to interrupt because Blair threw out, I like a remake of No Country for Old Men with Ricky Ricardo as Anton.
That's your number 10 spot right there. So. Oh man. So yeah, we will have more discussions on the actual nominations and categories as the Oscars approach. And yeah, so that is our thoughts on the Oscar nominations for Best Picture. So much more to talk about, hopefully, in the next few weeks as the Oscars approach. With that, we're going to take a moment to remind you that you can find us all over social media. Make sure you check us out on Facebook. Just look up the title of the show, Real to Real Talk, and we are there. You can talk with us there on our posts. And you can also find us on Instagram at Real to Real Talk, where you can see all of our show posters from past episodes, so you can catch up and find out what we've been talking about, especially since we just finished another round of Netflix Roulette. So also on YouTube, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate those of you who are watching live as we speak. We appreciate you joining us here tonight. Don't forget, click that subscribe button. And also click the notification bell so that you know when our episodes post, in case you're not able to join us live. We thank you so much. All right. It is time now for our movie review that we're going to be talking about, as we are going to take a look at a movie called The Worst Person in the World. Kristen, this is another one of those films that you were able to help us get our eyeballs on. And so if you would, please, Kristen, kind of set us up on this film. Why it came to us and why it's important for us to discuss it. And then we'll take a look and share our thoughts about the film itself.
Yeah, so The Worst Person in the World, I had heard about it for a long time. So it's a Norwegian romantic comedy drama. It mixes a lot of tones. And basically it's about a young woman in her late 20s who's, like many of us, is still constantly evolving, trying to figure out herself, like what she wants to do, what kind of person she wants to be. And through the relationship that she has as she continues to evolve. And so I heard it's really funny. I heard that it's really interesting. And so I wanted to watch it before I was making my top 10 and immediately just fell in love with it. Fell in love with the main actress, Renata Reinsve. Fell in love with Håkon Trier, the director and writer. And just like it filled me with so much joy that like I wanted to burst talking about it when we first did our Drive My Car episode. And like after watching it again for a second time yesterday, I'm bursting even more wanting to hear y'all's opinions about it.
Yeah, no, and I thank you so much for bringing this to us. This movie for me, uh, wow. I mean, to say that I was on a roller coaster in terms of where my mind thought it was going and where we ended up was such a pleasant surprise because it feels in the beginning like it feels a bit formulaic, the romantic comedy sort of feel to it, but and so I'll be honest. At first, I was like, okay, 2 hours of this, am I going to be okay? But by the time it was over, not only had I gone through so many different levels of emotion, there was a relatability that this film has to experiences we've all had in some way, shape, or form when it comes to interpersonal relationships and relationships that that we develop in our lives with someone that we love. And by the time it reaches its zenith in terms of where the film is actually going, you realize this is not, you can't pigeonhole this movie into one category. And that's, I think, the beauty of this film. I mean, you described it perfectly, Kristen. It's a romantic comedy drama. I mean, how many of those can we name?
And of those three, it is by far the least romantic. It's far heavier in comedy, far heavier in drama
right
than in romance. Let's be fair.
Then let's replace romantic with horny.
Okay. Excellent.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what the both of you are really helping me to expand my scope in terms of watching international films. Paul, I think way back to Force Majeure, back when we, reviewed that film, and how that sort of opened my eyes to, okay, there's so many other places I need to be looking for films. When this movie was over, I was like, yeah, this is what I want my film watching to evolve into next, is finding these types of what I'm going to call a treasure, because not only did I feel like it was a great movie, I felt different, or there was something about me that, I hate to sound corny, but I'm just going to say it's one of those films I'm going to look back at and go, something changed in me that day, because there was this relatability, and it's one of the few times that I've been able to sit through a whole film feeling like, yeah, I know exactly what that feels like. And that, I think, is its success, is its ability to transport you emotionally to a place you don't realize you're going to until it's all over. So that's my broad stroke look at the film. But Paul, please, your thoughts as we dive deeper.
I'm probably going to become a little childish in my review, other than just saying I mean, Wes Anderson is my favorite director. He's my favorite filmmaker by far. It's not even close. And French Dispatch was my favorite movie until I watched this. Favorite movie until I watched this, because, and it like literally took me like 2 or 3 days after I watched it to realize, yeah, you know what, this was so much better than French Dispatch, and it is just an absolutely perfect, remarkable film going experience. First of all, huge shout out to movies that are throwing like their act names or the chapter names up on the screen. I love it. I love it. I have mentioned it before, like that I'm a big fan, and this movie just played to that, like, and took it to an absurd level, because it like even opens up with the narrator saying this movie is going to be a 12 chapter movie
right.
with an epilogue and with a prologue and an epilogue, and like they literally just say they're gonna, and I love that is the tiny little touch that it's just like, yes, this is the immersive experience that I want to be in. The best chapter name of anything ever, Julie's Narcissistic Circus. I mean, and then for that chapter to be by far the most insane chapter of any, chapter, act, anything of any movie that's not really genuinely, like, I wouldn't put this in What the Hell Did I Just Watch? I would put that chapter in What the Hell Did I Just Watch? And go ahead.
Yeah, it's like that chapter, and especially because like I kind of forgot the very end of it. because it's the kind of viewing experience where I was just like, oh no, oh no, oh no, this is happening.
So that's the best part. What you just said, this isn't happening, is the best part of it, because you don't know if this is happening until the end of the chapter. Like, until the end of the chapter, it's like, oh shit, that happened? It's like, oh my God, that could not have happened. And then but to double down, the best part of that chapter is it was foreshadowed. They foreshadowed that fucking chapter in the first like 10 minutes of the movie during a conversation that she was having with, I believe, like friends, or it might have been her the boyfriend, about, this is what I want to see in movies, and this is you'll never see this in movies because they don't know how to handle women characters well. And so, and I'm not going to ruin it, like go watch the movie so that you, but just know that conversation in the movie is foreshadowing something later in the movie. And it's just like, it's perfect. It is flawless. And the other thing I want to give credit to this movie for is being able to change tones. I mean, it changes tones chapter to chapter at a drop of a dime, and it flows flawlessly. It just goes, and like I don't remember the chapter name, but there's it's the one that is captured on the movie poster, where you see Julia running through the streets, and it becomes a fantasy. It becomes a fantasy. Like, you're sitting here watching this romantic comedy drama, and then all of a sudden you get a fantasy movie, and it's like, oh my God, this is fantastic. Like, it's such a breath of fresh air in the middle of all this drama that's going on, that it's like, yes, this is exactly what I needed with what's going on with the drama that's going on right in this moment. I needed a little bit of levity. It was like Shakespeare. It was like Shakespeare throwing in his comedy right in the middle of his dramas. It's like, this is what this movie needed. It at this moment, it just, every single beat was exactly what the movie needs at every single moment of the movie, including and especially the epilogue. Now, that being said, I wish that things had worked out a little differently for Julie. Like, my question is she happy? I don't know. But I think for this movie, it's okay that you don't know. I think it's okay. Like, I want her to be happy. I hope she's happy. But maybe happiness isn't really what she's after anyway. That just might be.
I have thoughts, but we don't really want to spoil it for people.
Right.
I mean,
we can talk outside the podcast.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, it is coming to theaters like this weekend. I don't know. It's going to be one of those movies probably that, like, it's going to be in major cities this weekend, and then a week or two after, it'll be in a city near you. Unless you're in Chicago, congratulations. I feel like I have to go see this movie in a theater. I hope that I do. I hope that time permits. But yeah, I mean, it's so good. It is so freaking good. It's insane. It's just perfect. It's movie heaven.
It's funny you say that, Paul. I didn't want to use the word perfect because that's such a tough word to throw around when talking about film, but I really felt like this was a perfect movie.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I want to do one more thing because before I forget, because I knew I was going to forget, and I did. I want to compare and contrast this really quickly with Drive My Car, because Drive My Car is a clinical look at and deconstruction of somebody's life and how somebody runs their life. The Worst Person in the World is a chaotic mess that reflects somebody's life, and they are such different movies that do the exact same thing, and it's remarkable. It's like and they're perfect for the journey for the people that they represent, for the people's stories that they're telling, for the lives that they represent. They're both perfect for what they do. It's just that for The Worst Person in the World, just it wraps it up better for me than Drive My Car does. I think that's ultimately where why this one's my favorite versus Drive My Car.
Gotcha. Kristen, any thoughts you would like to share? Any final thoughts on The Worst Person in the World? Just any other thoughts you'd like to share regarding
it? Renata Reinsve, the main actress, is phenomenal. She was actually on Late Night with Seth Meyers last night. I just watched her interview, actually. because they are just now starting to release it, which is a shame because they should have done it earlier so we can get more nominations.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But I did put Renata in my best actress while we were talking, so.
That's awesome.
I mean, that would be awesome.
It would be amazing. And again, it's kind of my banking on that because the voters might be more diverse. Like when you have more votes, people start putting their passion picks. Like that's where they start putting in, like, I think of The Father last year. The Father got way more nominations than people thought, and then just surged to 2 Oscar wins. So like, and the international like filmmaker kind of like industry, like those people can sometimes be a lot more adventurous. Like as we saw with Titan winning the Cannes Film Festival. That's like, I'm gonna try to, like, what is it that you do something in hopes that the universe does it? Is it manifesting it?
Yeah.
Is that the word for it?
Throwing the energy out there.
Yeah, I am trying to manifest an Oscar nomination for Renata because she is phenomenal.
We'll join you. Renata's getting an Oscar nomination for Best Actress.
Awesome. Well, we reached that point where we remind folks here on Real to Real Talk, we have a 5 taco rating system. When we review films, a movie can get as many as 5 tacos, but if you want to give it some extra love, you can throw on some guac. Kristen, I'd like to start with you since you brought this film to us. What is your rating for The Worst Person in the World?
So my original rating before this past viewing was 4.5. But with last night's 5 plus guac, I am with y'all. This movie is perfect. It is so perfect. And yeah, I'm just beaming so much. I'm just so happy y'all love it too.
Indeed. Well, Paul, if you would leave that up there for mine, because this is a 5 taco plus guac film for me. It is nothing like what I was thinking it would be. And that's the kind of movie that will have me coming back. And so, yeah, that's my rating as well. Paul?
Yeah, I'm 5 tacos plus guac. I'm just trying to figure out when Steven Spielberg will throw Renate like $10 million to appear in his next movie. What? Because it's coming. Because she's that good. Like, I hope it does happen. I hope it does happen. I mean, yeah, this movie. Wow, it's I was the only one on Drive My Car that didn't go with the guac. This is why, like, it's because of this movie, because I definitely, like, this one kicked that extra gear for me with 5 plus guac.
This is the kind of film that I fear will get remade in the future, into an English version. That's and it needs to be left alone. It is perfect as it is. And yeah, so the film fan in me wants it to be left untouched.
Universal,
right?
Like, that's something we never even mentioned. Like, this is a Norwegian film that's universal. Like, no part of it feels like, as a U.S., like, as people in the U.S., that we can't relate to it. All of its themes are 100% universal.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know how this sounds, but one of the things that stuck with me was how reading the subtitles was effortless. Meaning, I didn't think of myself as I'm watching this film reading subtitles. I don't know if that makes sense. It just made 100% sense across the board. It was as if I understood the language because I understood the feeling. I understood the emotional beats of this story, and yeah, I can't say enough about this film.
I do have one more thing I forgot.
Sure.
So I related so much to this character, and I actually wrote down that there was one scene where she is talking to her father. They don't have a great relationship. And it's such an awkward conversation, such an awkward like circumstance, what they're saying, how they're reacting to each other, that like I was instinctively just being like, "Ugh, I'm so awkward. I'm like, this is so awkward." And I was scratching at my armrest. When they cut back to Julia, the main character, she was doing the exact same thing. And that's when I was just like, this person's me. I relate so much to this person,
That's
and
awesome.
and I just want to be her best friend.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. All right. Well, that is our thoughts on The Worst Person in the World. Make sure you check it out. It will be releasing, I think you said this week, Paul, and hopefully a wider release over the next few weeks. So keep an eye out for it. It is one worth catching. All right, that brings us to this week's segments. It feels weird jumping to what the hell did I just watch, Paul, after such a great conversation, but we're going to do it because I'm here for it. So, Paul, we'll turn it over to you for what the hell did I just watch.
So, in an attempt to, I stated at the beginning of the year, I'm going to try to make my what the hell did I just watch more relevant to what we're talking about as much as humanly possible. So I went back and there is a movie that won Best Picture that is generally regarded as just the worst. It's just like, why did this thing win? But here's the important thing: it was the second movie to ever win Best Picture. So today's what the hell did I just watch is the Broadway Melody, which won Best Picture, released 1929. This was the first. It was the second ever Best Picture. It was the first talking movie to be to win a Best Picture. It was also the first. It's credited as being the first musical. It's credited as being like introducing the concept of this is what musicals are going to be like, and it was sort of like the blueprint for the next 30 years on here's Busby Berkeley, all of that stuff is could trace its origins to the Broadway Melody, which is true, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's good. I mean, I'm telling you, like I love movie musicals. Okay, I just do. It's fine. I understand that that's not a popular opinion in a lot of circles, but I feel like this is a safe space. I could say I love movie musicals. This is just perplexing. I mean, so obviously you have to accept the fact that this is going to be a movie that is going to have themes that just don't translate to today at all. Okay, and so the overall idea of the movie is these two sisters move from a smallish town vaudeville act to New York to be on Broadway, and they're brought there by one of the girls' boyfriends, one of the sisters' boyfriends, who, upon meeting her sister when they arrive in New York, falls in love with his sister. And so, like, the sister, in order to not ruin her sister's life, starts dating men that she knows she shouldn't date because they are bad. They treat women wrong, and they are, you cannot. And like, there are so many scenes where this sister's like, please don't fuck this guy, without actually ever saying, please don't fuck this guy, that it's like, oh my God. it is the exact opposite of what The Worst Person in the World, just in the sense of presenting women who are sexually own their own sexuality, where this woman just doesn't own her own sexuality at all and is just looking to sell her virginity to the highest bidder. It's fucking insane. And to add on to that, the musical numbers just don't make it. Like it's just like movie. Hey, let's have a musical number. Movie. Hey, let's have a musical number. And the musical numbers are like literally like scenes out of the Broadway musical that they are in. And they're staged. It's like, imagine putting it's staged like a TikTok video, like where somebody takes a camera, puts it 25 feet, no, like 100 feet away from the stage, and just sets it there, and it's like shoots the stage, and it's oh my gosh. So thankfully, after this movie came out, a lot of people figured out that there's better ways to shoot movies, but But that being said, as you know, an artifact in Oscar history, it was an interesting watch. But man, have we come a long way in movies, thank God.
That is probably the best sum up I've heard within one of your What the Hell Did I Just Watch segments. So, as always, Paul, thank you for what you bring us. You can make sure and catch what Paul has watched week to week in the category of What the Hell Did I Just Watch? And you can also maybe suggest a few to him by stopping by our social media, because I'm sure there's a lot of weirdness out there you guys would want to introduce Paul to as he introduces us to them as well. This week, I am going to talk a little bit about, in my real good TV segment, I'm going to talk about a show called The Night Of. I'm starting to week share some thoughts on shows, TV shows, and series that I come across. And several years ago, I think 2014, 2015, HBO had a series called The Night Of. It is an 8-part episodic limited series, as it's called today, that covers the story of. It starts out as that sort of police procedural. Guy gets arrested for a murder he didn't commit, and you think that the series is going to be about how he gets vindicated, but it's not at all what the show is about. What the show is about is a wonderful look at a character arc of someone who is left in the system long enough that they are no longer the person that they were when they went into the system. This is a guy who, as he is accused of murder, is not granted bail, and thus the story becomes his evolution within prison and how it changes him as a person, how it changes the family dynamics as his parents really struggle to continue to support him because they start to have doubts in him. And so there's some really great work done by Riz Ahmed. This was one of the earliest roles that he received a lot of buzz for, and just some fantastic storytelling. John Turturro. This is going to make no sense to anyone who hasn't seen it. There's just a little bit too much eczema in this movie, so or in this series. But all in all, I do highly recommend. You can catch it now on HBO Max. Just look up The Night Of, and it is one that will leave you thinking episode to episode. So that is this week's Real Good TV, and I hope you guys check it out. All right. So, Kristen, as always, it is an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thank you for joining us, and I hope that as we move forward through all of these award shows and such, that we'll have you back periodically to give us your thoughts on how the award season is going, and then, of course, to talk Oscars when the time comes. So you're always welcome here on the show.
Thank you.
Co-sign.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we're going to talk 2 hours next week about nominations, right?
Probably.
We'll make the time. The time.
Yeah.
You're going to see me dip here on screen because George.
It might come up.
Coming up.
It might come up.
Yeah. Everyone say hi to George.
Hi, George.
All right. Well, Paul, as always, it's a whole lot of fun. We'll continue to do this week to week. And so pay attention to our social media, folks, because we'll let you know what's coming up in the next couple of weeks as we continue our movie watching journey here on Reel to Reel Talk. In the meantime, we thank you all for joining us wherever you do, whether it's YouTube or other of our social media locations. Get out there, watch movies, stay warm, stay safe. I'm not sure where you are, where you're listening, but there's some stuff happening out there with this winter weather. So please, y'all stay safe out there. And I can't imagine how it must be in Chicago right now, Kristen. It must be cold.
It's very cold.
Yeah.
I literally walked in the snow to work.
Oh, man. I'm in Texas, and we're just having weather that doesn't belong here. That's all I'm going to say. So, Paul, I hope you're doing okay also. So
I'm in South Florida. I'm fine.
I figured you were. All right. Well,
it was super cold this past weekend with a low of like 42 or something like that.
Oh, geez. Okay. Well.
Oh, you poor baby.
Oh, man. All right. Well, with that, we thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget, as we always say, you're awesome, you're amazing, and the world's a better place because you are in it. We'll see you next time on Reel to Reel Talk. Good night, everybody.